Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, as I teased in the last review, and yep, another one of my favorite movies, this time being Disney, and which being a Disney hand-drawn animated feature, that's right. And this being my all-time favorite Disney animated film, and that being The Great Mouse Detective. Yes, my all-time favorite Disney animated feature film, The Great Mouse Detective. I mean, what can you say about The Great Mouse Detective? Well, because it's amazing, based off of, the book series of Basil of Baker Street, and which, Basil being the mouse version of Sherlock Holmes, of course, because this was a really good Disney film, and the fact that, some people say that The Great Mouse Detective was, I don't know, the start of the Disney Renaissance, I want to say, but most likely, well, it got Disney back up on its feet, because after, say, The Black Cauldron, what could Disney do next? Well, because a year after The Black Cauldron, it didn't take too long for them to make a pretty good, successful Disney film, which being this, The Great Mouse Detective. And of course, we would get Oliver and Company, then The Little Mermaid, and thus, the Disney Renaissance would begin. So, I don't know, maybe, The Great Mouse Detective, was at a peak of the Disney Renaissance, just about started the Disney Renaissance? I don't know. But, for one thing, it did save the company. It did save Disney with doing hand-drawn animated films. You get my point. But anyways, the story. Basil embarks on the greatest case of his career. When London's master toymaker is kidnapped, he ends up pitting his wits against his old adversary, Professor Ratigan, who wants to become supreme ruler of all mousedom. Yeah, because instead of kingdom, it's mousedom. So, yeah. So, of course, yeah. Literally, the opening to this film, because, I don't know, not what you would expect sometimes. Of course, everything seems okay and very nice, the Toymaker, being voiced by, and I think the Toymaker, well, no, Hiram Flaversham, that's his actual name, being voiced by the late legendary Alan Young, of course, with Wilbur the horse, and, best known for being the voice of, Scrooge McDuck. So he is the voice of the Toymaker, and of course his daughter, Olivia Flaversham, being voiced by a young Suzanne Polishstick, if I'm saying her last name right, I don't know, gives her, a present, I think, a birthday present or something, and then, out of nowhere, because a bat comes in and basically snatches and kidnaps the Toymaker. And the bat being Fidget, being voiced by the late legendary, Disney voice actor, done a lot of voices for Disney, Candy Candido, if I'm saying the last name right, because, he always had done voices, that kind of like this, he was the voice of the Indian chief, and that Gator in Robin Hood. The tournament of the Golden Arrow will now begin. And you can hear and also one of the guards, Maleficent's goons in Sleeping Beauty. And his voice can be heard in the Haunted Mansion. Yeah. So he's the voice of Fidget, no problem, I took care of everything. So he kidnaps the Toymaker, Hiram, I think I'm saying that right. And of course, Olivia's all alone, and after the credits roll, we then see Dr. David Dawson, being voiced by Val Betton, if I think I got that right. And he's new, and he comes in to London, and he discovers Olivia, and, she needs help from Basil of Baker Street. And of course, Dawson, he is familiar with Baker Street, and, they find the location of where Basil lives. And Basil happens to live lives in the same building, but in a mouse hole. And right on top of Basil is where Sherlock lives, like the Sherlock Holmes. So that makes perfect sense, The actual Sherlock and the mouse version of Sherlock, they're in the same building, And they, of course, have, like, a caretaker as well. And of course, with Basil being voiced by the late Barry Ingham, if I'm saying the last name right. Yeah, definitely he was the voice of Basil, definitely. And fun fact, at one point John Cleese was considered to voice Basil, but of course the role went to Barry, and yeah, of course, perfect choice. And also, Star Trek fans would recognize him and remember him, for making an appearance in an episode of The Next Generation. That one episode where they beam up Irishmen, and he plays an Irishman, and they've got farm animals, that episode. And it also has to do something with a planet of clones, like, that kind of stuff. But anyway, so he was in Star Trek, and, yeah. So, Olivia basically just telling Basil about, she needs his help because of her father being captured, and mentioning a bat, and, Basil's like, "Did you say bat? Did he have a crippled wing?" And, she's like, "I don't know, but he had a peg leg." And brilliant, and, he is familiar with that bat, and the fact that that bat, Fidget, happens to be associated and work for Basil's archenemy, Professor Ratigan. And that's a really cool shot where, his lightning strikes and we get a close-up of Ratigan's picture, like him smiling, but the picture kind of changes, like we see his teeth. That's pretty cool. And then, of course, we then cut to Professor Ratigan, being voiced by the late legendary horror icon, Vincent Price. Yes, quite an ingenious scheme, eh, Flanisham? I'm telling you, Professor Ratigan, okay, so Professor Ratigan is my all-time favorite Disney villain, because, this being my all-time favorite Disney animated feature film, and Professor Ratigan being my all-time favorite Disney villain. So, because Ratigan is such a great Disney villain, because his personality and, his funny moments, and at times where he's trying not to, like, lose his temper, his cool. You know what I'm saying? It's pretty amazing. Just the animation to him, and Ratigan being, one of the animators who animated him, which being, legendary Disney animator, I should say, Glenn Keane. Just fantastic, Just like when he's, like, kind of squishing the toy that, Flaversham gave to his daughter, like, just looking at it and then just kind of popping the head, like, oh my gosh. And then, of course, we have Ratigan's song number. And by the way, because, yeah, Ratigan capturing the toy maker because basically, creating a robot replica of the Queen. Because, Ratigan planning to take over all of Mousedom, and be ruler and king. And so Ratigan having his song number, from the brain that brought you the Big Ben caper, the head that made headlines in every newspaper, and everybody's singing, "Oh Ratigan, oh Ratigan," and actually one of Ratigan's goons, crooks, henchmen, one of them is a lizard, and actually supposedly it's the same lizard character from Alice in Wonderland. Maybe not really, but just, the design and look of that lizard. Same as the one in Alice in Wonderland. So, even during Ratigan's song number, because one mouse that was completely drunk, calling him a rat, and Ratigan does not want to be called a rat because he wants to be preferred as a mouse. And, just, what was that? What did you call me? And, of course, that drunk mouse gets what's coming to him because Ratigan having a bell, and, of course, it summons Ratigan's cat, Felicia, and basically, yeah, very cruel, just, dark. We don't really see it, but we see a shadow of it, just, Felicia about to eat the mouse, even as the mouse is singing, to, oh, Ratigan, oh, and then, he's dead, he's eaten. And, of course, with Basil, Olivia, and Dawson, well, I think, yeah, at one point, because, Ratigan sent Fidget out again to collect some items for, breaking into the Queen's royal palace and, from outfits, guard outfits, the hats, and, also Ratigan wanted to get the Toymaker's daughter, because, need her, because that will get him moving and threaten him. You get my point. So, and of course, so Basil and Olivia and Dawson, they make their way, of course, to the toy store, and they have a dog that helps them, and actually, which being Sherlock's dog named Toby. And fun fact, because we do hear Sherlock talk a little, and actually, it's the voice of Basil Ratbone. Yeah, Basil Ratbone being the best well-known actor to play Sherlock, and also Laurie Main, he was the voice of Dr. Watson, the actual Dr. Watson, and fun fact, because Basil Ratbone, he actually did do something Disney. He was the narrator for Wind of the Willows of Mr. Toad, so that was really cool. And because, of course, Basil Ratbone, he passed away, years before The Great Mouse Detective. Actually, the voice of him was taken from audio tracks, I think, of, audiobooks, radio, something like that, I don't know. But it's really cool, And so, yeah, Sherlock's dog, Toby, helping Basil, and I don't think, Toby doesn't really like Dawson at one point, but he really, warms up and immediately likes Olivia. And, of course, they're at the toy store, and, we see all the giant toys, and, Basil was telling, even at one point, Basil was telling Olivia to be quiet, and she did. She did throughout that sequence in the toy store, and some of the toys coming to life, and, of course, Fidget happens to be there, because, again, he was collecting items, from the Royal Guard outfits, the hats, and so on, and the list that he had, outfits, check, hats, and the girl, don't have the girl yet, blah, blah, blah. And he at one point drops the list, and, at one point, Olivia does get captured by Fidget, and Basil and Dawson, they fail to save her, and, of course, Basil does ensure Dawson that they will save her, and, another great sequence is, Olivia and her father are reunited, but of course, Ratigan, gets them separated, and just forces the father to continue finishing up that robot, and, a moment between Ratigan and Fidget, what's wrong with the list, and Fidget explaining what happened during that, at the toy store, and of course, Ratigan realizing that Basil is on the case. Why you in gibberting little? And he's just this close to losing his cool and just being so angry. And he's, about to feed Fidget Felicia, but then, Ratigan gets an idea of how to lure Basil in. And, Fidget, you delightful little maniac, you presented me with a singular opportunity. Poor Basil. Oh, he's in for a surprise. I I just love the dialogue that Ratigan has. You know, again, Vincent Price, I tell ya, and it's just amazing. And of course, like, you know, okay, yeah, because Basil and Dawson, they find the list that Fidget accidentally dropped, and, like, Basil, he figures out a clue, and, you know, of getting to where Ratigan is, and the sewers down below, and of course, like, they're, like, Dawson and Basil and Toby, they make their way to this bar, and they disguise themselves as, like, I don't know, sailors. It's pretty funny. And some of the, like, inside the bar is, like, an act show, like a stage show, and, like, an octopus juggling, or, like, say, frogs. Like, one of them is a frog, I think, yeah. Like, on a unicycle. And, of course, all of the mice, they're just booing, but, you know, the real entertainment for them is with, you know, like, the like, mouse ladies. I think at one point, Michael Jackson was considered to be a part of this, and, you know, like, do a song number. And I think probably for that sequence, Michael Eisner had considered that. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that would have fitted. If that would have fit so well in this movie. I don't know. But they, of course, did get a singer. And I think it was... Shani Wellis, was it? I'm pretty... no, I don't think so. But, you know, they did get a singer for that sequence. So, that was pretty cool. But anyways, of course, like, you know, well, and even, like, Dawson, he gets drunk because somebody had put something in their drinks, and, you know, I think Basil, yeah, he doesn't drink his drink, but Dawson does, and he's just, you know, he's just, like, drunk and so on. Like, something happens to him, he gets on stage, but of course, like, you know, everything turns out okay. I think, like, yeah, a bar fight happens. Fidget happens to be there, too, and, you know, sneaking his way back to Ratigan's, like, headquarters, his secret place, and Basil and Dawson on Fidget's tail, and of course, Basil and Dawson, they are captured by Professor Ratigan. They've fallen for his trap, and Ratigan, I've won! And, like, you know, Basil and Ratigan, their interactions, you know, I'll see you behind mouse bars! And at this point, like, you know, Basil, he's been outwitted by Ratigan. It's like, yeah, Ratigan, it seems like Ratigan has won for the moment, because, like, Basil, he feels hopeless now, because his arch enemy has won, and, like, they've got, like, Basil and Dawson, they're tied up to a mousetrap, and Olivia in a bottle, and, like, Ratigan just setting up a big trap, and he's like, you know, I didn't know which to choose, so I, like, used it all, you know, whatever he said. And, you know, with a record player, like, once the record player finishes, that's when the trap sets off. And, you know, another song that Ratigan sings, goodbye so soon, and isn't it a shame? We know by now that time knows how to fly, so here's goodbye. Yeah. And, you know, fun fact, because Vincent Price, because he did, yeah, if I remember correctly, yeah, he said that Professor Ratigan was one of his favorite roles. For one reason, it was the songs that he sung, like, written for him. So, you know, which obviously, I guess, you know, the goodbye song counts. So he is singing it as Ratigan. And so, of course, you know, Ratigan at this point, he's on his way to, you know, capture the queen and take over. And, of course, you know, the robot, you know, complete and finished and, you know, looks exactly like the queen. And, you know, with Ratigan's, henchmen, like, disguising themselves as the royal guards. And, yeah, because the robot fools the mice. And, and they were gonna feed, Felicia, the Mouse Queen. So, yeah, Felicia was this close to eating the Mouse Queen. But, of course, with Basil, Dawson, was just saying, all you can do is just sit here and feel sorry to yourself and, let's just set off the trap and get it done. And that's when it hits Basil, set it off now? Yes, we'll set the trap off now. And, of course, yeah, letting the trap set off and, he could, here's another thing, because Basil, he's so smart in this, and that's the thing. Because, with Sherlock Holmes, he's very smart. So the same thing goes with Basil, because Basil is the mouse version of Sherlock. Makes sense. Letting the trap go, and, gunfires, and, Olivia's out of the bottle, and everything's good. And, in fact, at one point, because even Ratigan said that once they got killed, their picture would be taken, and, of course, they're still alive, and he grabs both of them. Smile, everyone! That is a good, funny moment right there. And so, of course, the three of them, they break in, they stop Ratigan's, henchmen, and, because that the toy maker was controlling the robot, he was also speaking through, an old, microphone or something, and, the robotic voice of the Queen. And Ratigan just giving all these rules, and that's when the robot, at this point says about Ratigan, you are a, evil, cruel, blah, 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 and it's Basil controlling it, and, the robot is just about to call Ratigan as, and Ratigan says, don't say it, and then Basil, he says it, you're a rat, ah! And arrest that rat. And, and also, Felicia. Felicia was taken care of. Felicia did not eat the Queen. Toby came in, and, because Toby being a dog, he scares and chases off Felicia, and, it seems like Felicia is safe and sound, is, jumped on a wall, but, she jumps down. She ended up in, the section of the royal dogs, so, it's too bad for Felicia. Poor Felicia. So, anyways, Fidget, he, snatches Olivia, and Ratigan just saying, come any closer and the girl dies, and Basil, Dawson, and the toy maker, the father, that is, of Olivia, they chase after Ratigan and Fidget, and, on Ratigan's blip, and, Fidget's, telling Ratigan, they need to lighten the load, and Ratigan just oh, you want to lighten the load, and he throws Fidget off the blip, and he can't fly, and he falls to his death. He drowns, basically, pretty much. And a great moment in this film where, after Ratigan, he crashes into Big Ben, the clock tower, and just an amazing sequence right there, and, the final battle, between Ratigan and Basil, and, it was one of the first Disney films. The Great Mouse Detective was one of the first Disney animated feature films to have CG. It was the second Disney film to have CG. The first was The Black Cauldron. A lot of people don't remember that, but it is true. There was some CGI in The Black Cauldron a year before The Great Mouse Detective. So, there you go. There's another bit of fun facts for you there. Because, with the CG in The Great Mouse Detective, the gears, for one thing. It's amazing, still. Of course, Olivia is safe with Basil, and Ratigan just, his cape being stuck in the gears, and that's when he shows his true colors, and just shows you how evil he is. He just goes on a rampage and just becoming a wild rat and just basically just trying to kill Basil and just, there's no escape this time, Basil. And gosh, even at one point, steam coming out of his nose. Jeez, he's a psychopath at this point. And claws, and you could just hear the scratching and just, and it seems like, yeah, Basil has, fallen, from the hands of the clock, and Ratigan saying, I've won, and Basil, he says, on the contrary, the game's not over yet. He has his bell, and, the hands, moving, and, bong, it goes off, and, well, Ratigan just grabbing a hold of Basil, and both of them, well, Ratigan, he falls to his death, very, cruel, very, very brutal, I should say. You get my point. With that long of a fall, you know what I'm saying? That tall fall. You get my point. And, well, Basil, he survived because a piece of that, of Ratigan's blimp, because spinning it and that. And so, all ends pretty well, because Basil and Dawson, yeah, they were knighted by the Queen, and I guess knighted, I can't remember, but yeah, and Olivia and her father saying their goodbyes to Basil, and then another mouse comes in, and basically she is looking for Basil, and, well, even at one point, Dawson was also going to say goodbye to Basil, but when she comes in, that's when Basil, that's when he has Dawson being his right-hand man and assistant, and just like with, of course, Sherlock and Dr. Watson. So, yeah. And so a new adventure and new case for Basil and Dawson. Yep. And, I also like, yeah, because as the camera pans, away, and we see Toby listening, and like we saw earlier in the film, Sherlock playing his violin, yep, as Sherlock does, because that's his instrument. And Dawson, because he did a bit of narration at the beginning and at the end of this film, and, him saying at the end, because, that's how I knew and met Basil of Baker Street, the great mouse detective, etc. Man, The Great Mouse Detective, what a fantastic Disney film this is, and I guess, it's also an underrated Disney gem. I think so, yeah. And definitely, I'm giving this a 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 stars. I love The Great Mouse Detective. It is, if not, one of my all-time favorite Disney animated feature films. The storytelling, the characters, the music, and, fun fact, because the music was composed by the same guy who did some music for the Pink Panther. Yeah, so, pretty cool. And, it had some funny moments and emotional stuff to it, definitely. And what about you guys? Have you ever seen The Great Mouse Detective? What did you think of it? What did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review a like as always. So with that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of The Great Mouse Detective. More reviews coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward, and I'll see you guys in the next video/review. And stay tuned, because the next film that I'm going to be reviewing, that's another one of my favorite films, leading up to my birthday. Well, let's just say it has to do with a young musician, and, he and two other famous musicians would sadly die on the day music died. You probably know what I'm talking about, so stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.